The Chesapeake Bay, the crown jewel of coastal Virginia, has been utilized as a passageway since the arrival of Native Americans. The Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel connects Virginia Beach to the eastern shore of Virginia. However, the bridge tunnel was not opened to traffic until 1964. Prior to the bridge tunnel, the only way across the bay was by ferry boat. This is the story of the Virginia Ferry Corporation, the reason the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel was built.
I'm going to go with the steamers in this case. Did they operate better in the Delaware than did the Chesapeake Bay, being about 6 to 7 miles deeper water than in the Chesapeake?
Well, the downfall up there for the steamboats was Crow Shoal. They had to constantly keep dredging that through their draft.
The Chesapeake wasn't really that deep where y'all were operating in.
No, but it was never.
The
only dredging that was ever
done.
done down there that I can recall, which you know more about Cape Charles Harbor than I do. They were
I just know, the thing that I'm amazed with, I look at pictures, in the Delaware, I never really saw the boats pushing water kind of in the bow. Where the Chesapeake, I noticed they seem to push the water in the bow, and they got a sharp bow on them, except where the roundness is. I was curious about that.
All right, I can tell you what I see. Before the Princess Anne was lengthened, oh man, she pushed water that come right up to the guardrail on her bow. But after she was lengthened, that raised her up, and she cut through the water beautiful, her bow.
When they added those mid bodies in on that, how did that do for the center of gravity of the vessel?
Well,
they didn't put anything in those compartments from what I see.
I can't really answer you on that, but
They make them float higher, I guess.
they did float higher.
I don't think the center of gravity was even an issue.
I don't either.
I don't remember the center of gravity even changing. Pocahontas still had that long, slow roll. Delmarva had that fast. So I think the center of gravity was.
I agree with Capt. Bill Parks on that.
Do you know why the Delaware Bay modified the Delmarva and the Pocahontas? Why they cut so much metal out of them?
I didn't know that they did. They
You
did?
know, I've heard you say that.
Okay, I know you did. I know you kind of doubted me on that.
Well, I can give you my opinion, and I don't know why, but I imagine it had to do with that Crow Shoal.
Well, that's what I was thinking too. The less of the draft, maybe. But I don't. As much as they cut out, I can't see it doing much difference.
I didn't know they cut anything out of them.
I didn't either.
That's the picture of the Pocahontas after they cut her up. You notice a lot of her boat decks going aft, and her restaurant up forward has been cut out. They had a canopy deck on the back. They cut that out, and they squared her up. Took all her nice lines they cut out of her, made her square.
That would change her looks, all right.
It's damn sure changed looks on that stack or something.
Well,
Well, that's the same. Well, the stack is different. Yeah, they put new stacks on all of them.
it didn't work then because they had to get rid of them and buy new ferries.
Well, they got rid of them because I think because of Crow Shoal. That's right. You told me a story about the dredge dropping everything up there. Remember that?
Oh yeah, I ran aground.
Yeah,
I was on the Delmarva, and I was right on the ranges. Well, I was down in the second mate was Tommy Mitchell was second mate, and he was on watch. And I was down in the saloon, the pasture saloon. And all of a sudden, I felt her nudge, and I said, "Damn, it's coming." So I went to Pilot House, and she was hard aground. And I looked, and the ranges was dead on, dead on. And I had to wait until they set a tugboat there to pull her off. Well, later on, I found out what happened. The captain on that dredge, I used to know one of the other captains on there, and he told me that the captain on that dredge ran aground himself, and he dropped his load right into that channel and then left.
I backed out of Cape May Jetty one time. I was in #1 bridge. And they were in there dredging. They had the dredge buoys up there. I didn't think I had enough room to turn around. Because like Captain Park said, her pivot point was well forward. It was almost under the bridge wing on her. The room that I had to turn, the stern would have been, I'd been turned on a bunch of pollen, cluster of pollen. And it had been so far aft, I'd been forever and a day. So I backed out of Cape May Canal.
I laugh at it because those ferries came with the jetties and people are fishing and they suck all the water out, have a great big wall of water coming in behind them.
Man, I tell you, I used to get a big kick out of that over on Cape May side.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
All them nice looking young girls laying there with their radios and their coolers and whatever. And that Pocahontas, she really pushed a bore of water. And it's approaching there, it's like you say, she's sucking away. And then here he comes. The coolers, the blankets and everything.
The girls.
I backed out of there one summer day. My wife was on the boat with me. In fact, it was before we got married. And over on the opposite side, if you're laying in #1 bridge or at the dock, across the canal, but the Canadians used to go down there a lot. And a lot of times they were in the nude.
Oh.
And I was backing out of Cape May, turning around, and I was out on the bridge wing. One of the passengers said, "Captain, look over there." They were lined up on the canal. It was sterns anywhere from that wide to that wide. They were moonless. There was about 20 of them.
They were mooning.
Yeah.
Did
Were
you
they men or girls?
toot the whistle? Did you toot the whistle?
I don't think so.
Okay. What was it like running out of Cape Charles Harbor? Was it much difference, or it looked going in and coming out of there?
Yeah, it was a different approach. You got, you had to go by more turns. You had to go by Plantation Lighthouse, then make a 90-degree turn, go left, and then I'd go about halfway up that channel, you make a slight turn to your left, and then another 90-degree into the harbor. Then you had to turn around, back in. The maneuvering area wasn't as much as Capt. It was kind of a tight turn sometimes, you know, depending on the weather.
Did they just have one dock in there, or two docks?
They had one dock. They had two docks there. One dock was a long one, and the Pennsylvania Railroad steamer used to take up part of it.
Now, the Pennsylvania Railroad steamer, she didn't back into the
Yeah.
bridge where we unloaded. She was up the dock.
Okay.
She unloaded and loaded on the door on the side of her.
Therefore, I was interested in the telegraph, the speed choices on the telegraph.
Well, you had stop was straight up on your engine order telegraphs. The first notch on the head side was stand by. Or if you're on a dock and you're finished docking, you're finished with the engine, like I say, straight up stop. The first notch back is finished with engines. And then on back, you got slow stern, half stern, full stern. Same as a
Now,
head.
okay, when you all ordered full from engineering, is that always the max of what the engine would deliver to you?
No. They have a set. the Princess Anne and Del Mar are cruising speed. They turn them about 320
So they said
RPMs.
full would be your cruising speed.
Sir,
Full would be your cruising speed.
right.
Or operating
We'd
speed.
have the indicator on full,
Yeah.
which she'd go a lot better than that if they want to get on. But that was our normal.
Did
But
you?
the Pocahontas, where she was a bigger boat, they turn her a little faster. Can you remember what the RPMs when you're underway?
I sure don't. I
Seemed
think
like,
it depended on the engineer. Well, the engineer was on watch.
seemed like maybe somewhere around 340, 345.
Could have been,
something
I
like
don't
that.
know.
Where did most of the crew and all live? They live on this side or live on the other
I
side?
think most of them lived on this side, but there's quite a few lived in, some of them lived in Matthews County.
Yeah, some Matthews County one, down in
There was some in North
Warren
Carolina.
Cheese, North Carolina, Manio.
Ronald Gray, and his nickname was Manio, but he was an excellent wheelsman, excellent.
What would happen when a tractor trailer got stuck on the bridge because of an unusual high tide or low tide?
That happened all the time over Northampton. Northampton, she was something. Her car deck had a steep ramp, and them trucks, especially if the deck was wet, them trucks didn't have the power to pull up that ramp. A lot of times
They could spin it.
they had to bring the tractor on. They had a tractor with it. But I used to tell them when I was unloading, I'd tell them, I said, try to get as much headway as you can so you can make it up that ramp. And that happened all the time on that Northampton.
And if they didn't have their dollies cranked all the way up, then that was another hindrance.
Yep.
That would stop 'em.
So how long would that delay your loading and offloading?
Well, if you had 2 or 3 of them,
You were going to be late leaving
you
there.
were gonna be late leaving.
So what do you do in that case? You
Nothing.
order more turns on the prop?
No,
No, you couldn't do that. Them engineers going to run them like they wanted. Charlie Pointer, I remember, come on to Del Marble one time, and told me, he says, we were running late, a lot of traffic, you know. We have an engineer on there that just, if you ever had a piece of machinery, you'd want to get him to run it for you. So he'd never wear it out. And Charlie asked me, he said, would you tell the chief that to step up the RPMs? I said, Charlie, I said, you know what the answer's going to be. I said, well, I'll do it. So I did it. The chief told me, he said, well, I said, you're not on one of them diesel boats. You can run them diesel boats, but you can't do these steamboats like that. I said, okay, there's no need to talk, you know. So, just run late.
So y'all never really tried to make up for lost time?
We tried the best we could, but depending on the traffic. I remember one time I was on the Accomack. It was coming from Little Creek, and it was on an early Monday morning, because every Friday was the busiest time from Little Creek. That's where the sailors got off and they headed back home. Monday mornings when they came back. So we were running off schedule. And so it was on the Accomack, and Pocahontas was right behind me. And I called the dock man in Capt. I says, how much traffic you got out there? He said, we don't have any. I said, okay. So we never had anything on from Little Creek. I told the wheelsman, I said, hard right. And we went on back without even going to the dock. Captain George Daniels come on there and he said, I don't know what Mr. Chandler's going to say about this. He said, you never followed orders. I said, let me tell you something. I said, if I had gone in there, I said, the Pocahontas would have been late leaving. I said, as it turned out, the traffic was taken care of, and all the boats went back on schedule. I said, no, I didn't follow orders. I said, I used common sense. And I never heard anything about it.
If you were, I guess, in Capt, I don't have any loading docks ahead of Little Creek.
They had two loading docks.
If a ferry was in there and you got the tractor trailer stuck on there, you couldn't get out of the dock, what would the other dock would be open for the other ferry coming in?
Ordinarily.
Oh yeah, the number one dock and number two dock was always open, but, to be used for traffic.
So that's the problem that never occurred then.
No, not with two vessels in there. Whenever that was, you always laid off in the bay.
Let's go back to the dance cruise a little bit. The BSC stopped in 1947 because of rowdiness. And now I always
1947?
Yeah.
No,
And
they went longer than that.
well, what I read, it said they stopped it, then they started it back up again in 56 when
Yeah, right.
the Chesapeake Bay Ferry District bought them.
That's right, yeah.
But were the sailors the problems on there? Were they on there having a lot of fun, or?
No,
Just
well,
there.
I guess it was sailors there, but I don't think it was sailors that started the fight. Somebody started the fight on there.
What happens when a fight starts? Who breaks it up?
Well, you get all the crew if you have to, Get 3 or 4. Some of them guys were pretty tough.
We just called the dock, told them to have the police there waiting when we got in. Of course, I weren't going down there to fight them.
No.
One time on the Northampton, one night I was second mate, and the wind was howling northwest. The big forward doors was closed. When we left Capt and rounded the ships, she was sailing right ahead into the wind, that strong wind. All of a sudden, I don't know what caused it, and the bow doors broke open. Well, she got to rolling back, and you can imagine the big heavy doors going back and forth, So I called the captain to come up, Captain Halston. And I told him, I said, I'll go down on deck, see what's going on. So 3 or 4 miles off from Capt, there's a shoal called Middle Ground Shoal. It's on the chart. It's not enough water for them boats to float. So when I left out of the pilot house, we were still on the regular track, the ferry track. I was down there working, trying to secure them doors. And the doors had a heavy pin, metal pin about that big around. It had a piece of metal welded to the side, and had a hole into it to fit to secure that door. And I was waiting. Me and the deckhands were waiting for her to roll and for that door to come to and line up that hole so I could drop the pin. We tried 2 or 3 times. After a while, we got it secured. And I called to the pilot house and I said, Captain, I said, she's all secured. Yeah, God damn it, said we run aground. Run aground on Middle Ground Shoal. And we stayed there for 4 or 5 hours. And finally she floated off on her own. We lost the power, the engines loaded up with sand, But she floated off on her own, and pretty soon, once we got it in good deep water, that sand washed away, and we went on our way. But it was daylight when we got in Little Creek.
Wow.
And I could hear, walk through the saloon there, one of the passengers say, "You wait till she gets to port." What he was going to do, Anyway.
Were those doors on the LSTs, did they have the hand crank system on?
Yeah, they had a hand crank. But see, that was...
Well, did they open where they could come back and wedge against each
right.
other like the other
And they were
ones?
locked. I don't know what happened in the lock. you know, the LST had a short bow. And when they got the LSTs, they cut that short bow off and put that round bow to accommodate the traffic. I told Captain Halston, I said the wrong thing. I said, Captain, I said, why didn't you hit her down about southeast? And I said, back both engines slow, back her up into the wind. He says, would have got salt on the cars, I said, yeah, okay.
Did y'all have any sea rescues? Rescuing fishermen or boats
No,
sinking or anything?
I
I did.
You did?
I was down in the dining room. I was captain on the New Jersey, which was Princess Anne. And I was eating my dinner, and I always sat out a window where I could look out, looking ahead, where I had good vision. And I turn my head and I look up the bay, and way in the distance, it looked like somebody waving a coat or something. So I called the stewardess over. I said, take my lunch, my dinner. And I said, don't throw it away. I said, I'll be back. Well, I went on to Pilot House, and we were between number 2 buoy and Crow Shoal. So I had to continue on to go through the shoal. Went on up Bayshore Channel. We didn't have no fighter meters. And I was scared to death to do what I did, but I had slowed her down just in case I did take up, so I'd have the chance of backing off. I had a wheelsman that day. His name was Jackie Parks, and he was another ace in the hole.
He was that.
I was running slow ahead on both engines because I knew the water was shoal. I was getting up on that shoal, Crow Shoal, the upper end of it. I can hear Jackie now. Yeah, you won't watch your head way. He talked real slow. He was stand here, good guy. I eased on up close to the boat, and I got the boatswain up in the pilot house. And I told him, I said, go down on the freight deck, and when we get close, take the heaving line and throw, but throw it over top of it. Don't hit nobody. It was a man, his wife, and 5 kids standing on the bottom of Boston whaler. She was about a 22, 23 foot Boston whaler. Once they got hold of that heaving line, they pulled themselves right on over to us, and the boatswain, he walked right on around the guardrail and got them to that ladder, and all 5 of them come up that way and took them through an airport on the side of the boat. My kids would not have known it was me that done it. They spelled my name B-L-O-T.
Blot.
Didn't matter to me.
Company get upset when you do stuff like that? I know they shouldn't, but do they?
Who? Nobody never commended me.
Really?
Nobody never said nothing. The Pocahontas was docking, or the Delaware was docking at Lewis, and the water tender let her get low on water, let the ballers get low, and they didn't have any power. So he come head into number 2 bridge, which her speed, thank God, had decreased to about 1 or 2 knots. But when she hit the dock, she sprung back out. I'm gonna say about 20 yards at least.
Where was that at?
At Lewis.
He went head in.
Yeah, I wasn't on her. I was going on there that morning to relieve.
So he couldn't turn her around back in, huh?
Didn't have no power.
Somebody didn't do their job.
I had a 1959 International pickup truck. And I said to the dock manager there, I said, Gerald, tell them to throw a line up here on the bridge, tie the bow line to it. I said, I'll get my old truck and I'll pull them in. Oh, that damn truck ain't gonna pull that big boat. I said, you get the line up here. So anyway, when I got hold of the line, I backed up on the bridge about as far as I could, as I'd dare. Put it over my trailer hitch. Went to the switch on the bridge and brought her up about as far as I thought things would work. I got in her, kicked the emergency brake off. She come tight on the line. She started easing ahead. I didn't even put her in gear yet. Started pulling her along easy, pull her right on up in the dock.
That make a good car advertisement.
Again, I never got a compliment from the port captain or no one.
Any other instance where the engines failed while you were underway or like that?
Yeah, again, it was a boiler problem. I really don't know what happened, but anyway, both engines went dead and we were off in the middle of the bay. And like I say again, we did not have fathom meters.
Is this Chesapeake or Delaware?
Delaware. And I'm drifting up the bay toward Brandywine Light. And I drifted for a good hour before they ever got the problem solved where they could get steam up.
They didn't have any diesel generators on those, did they?
No, there was steam.
So you lost all your power.
Right. It was really fearful. The sounds that was going on in that engine room, or fire room, rather. I really didn't know what was going to be next.
Sounds from the crew or the boiler?
The boilers. The black smoke that was coming out of her stack by the barrel force.
So they didn't have a blowout, they lost oil, the boiler section or something.
Yeah.
For the water.
I never did find out really what created the problem. Because they had all new engineers and everything else on them.
Sounds like they didn't have enough water going to the boiler to supply the engines, but she
Right.
just sucked it all out.
The port engineer they hired, they didn't have a boat of their own then, hired a pleasure boat, a work boat, to run him over to get aboard, and he got things going.
Did the Coast Guard ever come aboard the vessels while you're underway to do inspections or anything?
Oh yeah, had quarterly inspections.
Did you have to launch the lifeboats and all that stuff?
My first launching of a lifeboat with the Coast Guard up on that run was in a snowstorm and blowing northeast about 10-12 miles an hour. Cold and bitter damn if he didn't make us go rowing. And I was coxswain of the boat.
The LSTs, they were a little bit slower crossing the Chesapeake, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think the steamers, they did about an hour and 25 minutes, would that be correct? That seems to be
That was pretty good.
an hour and a half plus.
Hour and a
half,
half, I would say.
For the steamer or for the diesel, for the LSTs?
LSTs were probably 5 minutes or maybe 10 minutes longer.
And the Accomac, even on a lost schedule, she could pass every boat in there, I think. If she wanted to,
She was pretty fast.
but they never did that with vehicles.
Well, they run her at times, yeah.
I remember one time I was on the Acroback, and I put a tractor and trailer truck on her.
On the Ackerman?
You did that?
It wasn't, how did you do that? Not a high one,
No, it was a flatbed.
like that, yeah.
Damn if I didn't put it on there.
But still, the cabs, the truck cabs would be
Oh.
higher than 7
I
feet.
put it on there.
I can't remember what her deck height was, clearance.
It weren't much.
Everything I read was 7 feet.
It weren't much, but
That
anyway.
sounds right.
Anyway, she come on there, and I think if she probably had another coat of paint, she'd probably hit.